As you've read by the title of today's video, I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in the year 2023 that really got me out of my book slump, out of my reading slump, and really encouraged me to, get back on the wagon. I hope this video is coming at just the right time for you. If you've been in a slump or you know someone who's been in a slump, share this with them so that everyone can get back on their Zoom, because we need to be on our Zoom. So the first book, Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda. This is a book I believe I've mentioned in maybe my two other videos. And it follows two twin sisters, Olana and Eskainene. And these two sisters live in early 1960s Nigeria, right before the war breaks out, which eventually leads to the declaration of the Republic of Biafra. Olana is taller than her sister Kainene, and there is a bit of enmity and animosity between the two. There are a lot of unhashed things between the two of them, and as a result, they grow further and further apart over time. We see Olana with one of the university professors who teaches at the University of Nigeria, and Kainene ends up meeting a British writer along the way. His name is Richard, and the two of them enter into a relationship. This book was really heartbreaking for me because it explores themes of war, of violence, of also betrayal, and just the power of human connection. I would advise that you look up the trigger warnings before you read this book. Around 433 pages. Personally, for me, it didn't take me that long because the story is very captivating, and I hope you'll enjoy this book if you're looking for some African fiction to get into. The next book I read was Purple Hibiscus, also by Chimamanda. Challenged me to question my own beliefs and just to think about my religion. I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic specifically. A 15-year-old girl named Kambili and her older brother, Jaja. And they are Nigerian, and they have a very strict dad named Eugene. And Eugene is all for Western civilization. He thinks that African tradition is backward, and there's a lot of witchcraft surrounding it. And Kambili, who I've said is 15, continues to grow slowly by slowly and starts to question her father's authority. There's so much strictness and a lack of conversation in their family, which eventually causes it to break. I think it's a very good book for those who might be Catholic. It is also something a bit aggravating because the dad is very strict, and as a result, the family just continues to leave things unmentioned. I do remember there's a part in the book where I believe the mom was going through some pregnancy complications, and she ended up going to the hospital and I guess aborting the baby. It's never really mentioned. It kind of leads to like the scene just fades to black, and so the kids never talk about it. It's something that's never mentioned, and it's something that affects the mom down the line. It's maybe 4.5 stars out of 5. So if again you're looking for some African fiction to get into, I'd advise that you read that book. It's pretty short, and I can guarantee that you'll fly through the book. The next book I read was Americanah, still by Chimamanda. Now, this is a book that I did not finish. I read about half of it. It follows a young lady named Ifemelu, if I'm saying her name right. And she is Nigerian, and she ends up going to America. And there's a lot of resistance. She's really struggling to fit in. She's also having a lot of time to daydream and just remember her relationship with her high school sweetheart. His name was Obinze, and now he's gone off to study in England while she is in America. There's a lot of culture shock in regard to how to take care of her hair, in regard to relationships. I can't say how the book ends because I never finished it. It did get a bit boring for me. I do understand stories about people in diaspora, but at one point, I don't know if you might relate, but the book got very, very repetitive for me. So that's why I ended up not finishing it. But if you've read it, please, let me know in the comments. The next book that I read, Butter, Honey, Pig, Bread. This was a 5-star read for me. In fact, it's something that I had borrowed from a friend, and it similarly also follows two twin sisters, Taiye and Kehinde. There's a lot of things that have gone unsaid between the sisters, and so it leads them down two very different paths. Taiye ends up living a very hedonistic, carefree life in London, while Kehinde, on the other hand, is in Montreal. She's trying to just heal on her own and try and live a good life. But eventually the two sisters have to come back to Lagos, Nigeria to visit their mom. and that's when things blow up. That's when they finally say everything that has gone unsaid. The mom also has a lot of her own issues, and that's really explored in the book. I personally would recommend this book to anyone that I meet. It will really have you thinking about human relationships, the favorism that exists maybe between siblings and parents, and how to resolve that kind of dynamic. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I'd advise that you read this book. There's a lot of controversy around it, but the one that actually really got me back into reading in 2023 was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Yes, I know, don't worry, there's a lot surrounding Colleen Hoover. I'm glad to say that this is the only book of hers that I've read. It follows a young lady named Lily, whose mom is a survivor of domestic violence. She underwent a lot under the hands of her husband, and as a result, you know, whatever you see in the home are the things that you pick up and they stay with you as an adult, and they're the things that you carry into your relationships. Ryle is basically a surgeon and he works at a hospital. This is shortly after the death of her dad, and as a result they get into a relationship which, as a surprise to no one, also turns out to be very abusive. There was a lot about this book I didn't like. It really made me angry as the reader. There was also a lot of like spice in the book, if you know what I'm talking about, and that's also something I didn't like. It took me a minute to get past that and just try and stick to the story all the way until the end. It was kind of like a car crash or a train wreck. You just can't look away. That's how captivating and also problematic the book was. There has been a lot surrounding this book about Ryle's portrayal, about whether Lily was a victim or did she actually want to stay in that relationship. Something I found very strange was that Colleen Hoover decided to release a coloring book about this book, which is based on domestic violence. Let's not get into that, but this book has been circulating all over the internet. If you've read it, please let me know your thoughts so that, you know, we can continue to discuss, and perhaps if you have a different opinion from mine, I'd really like to hear it. The next book that I read was 7 Days in June. This is also a book that I did not finish because there was also a lot of like erotic literature in the book, so I just put it down because it became too much for me personally. This is a book that follows a lady who's also a mom. Her name is Eva. She is a best-selling author. She writes mainly erotica. That's like her thing, you know, werewolves, vampires, like dark mafia, those types of books. She's a best-selling author and she has a daughter who's around 12 or 13, and she is at this literary event, like a workshop, something big in New York, and she ends up meeting Shane. Shane is an old boyfriend of hers from high school, and the reason the book is named 7 Days in June is because there's a time she and her boyfriend Shane ran away for like a week. They were in some house somewhere just doing drugs and not really taking care of themselves. They were teenagers, and that is honestly as far as I can say about the book. If you finished it, I'd like to know your thoughts about it. In the romance space, this is a 5-star read. Anyone who comes across this book says that it's an excellent book. So yeah, if you happen to be into romance, personally, I just couldn't go with the drift of this book. But if you like it, just let me know what you might think. And then finally, the last book that I read, this was a 5-star book for me, was this one, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It follows a writer and a journalist. Her name is Monique Grant, and she's basically been called by some very famous Cuban American actress, her name is Evelyn Hugo, to just write her biography. She's writing about her life, her success, the 7 marriages that she's been through. It's very interesting, it's very captivating. There is a lot of suspension in the beginning because Monique is wondering why she's been called by this A-list celebrity to write about her life, given that she just works at, you know, just a local fashion magazine. But there are a lot of strings that are attached. It's very captivating. It is a bit sad at the end, but I think that the author, Taylor Jenkins Reid, did a really good job of portraying celebrity culture, celebrity life, gossip, how the tabloids run, how the press, you know, can really spin your life around. And so if you're interested in that kind of fiction, I'd advise that you read this book. I'm also currently reading Carrie Soto is Back, still by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's still in the celebrity universe. This is about a lady named Carrie Soto. She has been playing tennis since she was a baby because her dad was a very famous tennis player. And I'm halfway through the book, so I'll let you know how it goes when I'm done. But if you're interested in pop culture and that kind of stuff, I'd advise that that you read this book. I want to mention that if you are in a reading slump, don't worry, it shall eventually end. Someone who might be a reader, or you're someone who's getting back into reading after a really long time, please take it slow. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. I personally am still, struggling with that. There is a book I had mentioned in my last video. It's called The Book of Notes that I haven't yet finished because it's getting really slow, and I feel like the author has just digressed from what we were talking about. And it also kind of reminds me too much of high school and my days in boarding school, some of which I'd like to forget. Yeah, I don't know how things will go. I don't know if I'll end up finishing that book. And I know a lot of you can relate. If there's a book that you've put down and you're not sure whether you'll pick it up again, that's fine. If you do, congrats. If you don't, it's okay, because life is too short to spend it reading a book that you don't even enjoy. So that's basically it for this video. I'll catch you in the next one.